family has a skeleton in the closet, literally. Growing up, I thought it was normal that we had a closet in our house that was forbidden to be opened. My dumb kid brain thought everyone had a closet in their house that was triple locked, chained, and barred closed at all times. It wasn't until I had finished bragging about how much cooler my family's secret closet must have looked compared to all the other kids in second grade that I came to learn the truth. My family is weird. For one instance, my parents named me Marmalade Dickinson. My sisters' names are Hibiscus, 26, Daisy, 24, and Chamomile, 21. Yep, we're all named after flowers. I'm the youngest, at the age of 20, and for the past 13 years of my life, I have been curious as to what lay behind that old oak door. Never in a million years did I think my sisters and I would find an actual skeleton in the closet. Normally, we'd never even dream about breaking into the forbidden closet. So, how did we come to be in this situation? Well, key word here being normally. Normally, my sisters and I are sober. But one drunken night fueled by dumb decisions is what led to this whole dilemma. It was the night of our parents' 30th wedding anniversary. They wanted everyone to get together for a nice, big family dinner together before leaving for the casino and gambling all their retirement money away. In attendance were my parents, obviously, Bit, Hibiscus, Daisy, her boyfriend Rick, Cam, Noah, and Cam's boyfriend Noah, and myself. My boyfriend Matthew had other commitments, so he wasn't able to make it. The dinner went fine as we all caught up. Then we wished our parents farewell. We all decided to hang back and spend the night at our childhood home, since we had all moved out by that point. Everyone had been a bit tipsy as they shared a few bottles of $20 wine at dinner. But they broke out the hard liquor when the parentals left. I wasn't feeling all that great, so I stuck to water instead. But we had ourselves a little party. It was Noah who suggested we play Truth or Dare in the first place. We were just in the living room with some action movie playing in the background when he randomly brought it up. I'm bored. We should play a game. What about Truth or Dare? I'm down, Cam replied as she snuggled into her man's shoulder lovingly. I shrugged my shoulders, too invested in the current plot point of the movie, not really listening. Bit agreed as she broke up Daisy and Rick's makeout session. The two, now back in the real world, also agreed. I'll go first, Daisy volunteered. Rick, I dare you to kiss me. Rick chuckled and smirked before laying a big fat one on her puckered cheeks. I groaned and rolled my eyes. That's not even how you play. You have to actually ask the question, truth or dare. Thanks, little sis, but I know how to play Truth or Dare. God, you're such a buzzkill, Mar, she scoffed. Ricky, Truth or Dare? Dare. Okay, I dare you to kiss me. Rick and Daisy began to make out intensely. My lovely older sister flipped me the finger while they did tongue. I pretended to gag in my mouth. Cam got off her boyfriend's chest. Alright, that's enough PDA from you two tonight. The two lovers stopped kissing and cuddled instead. Can I have a turn? Bit asked Noah. He nodded his head. Alright, Cam. Truth or dare? Truth. Did you steal my last cigarette? Cam twiddled her thumbs while she thought on her answer. Yeah, sorry. Bit shot Cam a smug smile. I fucking knew it was you. Listen, I was out, okay? You still had one left, and it was right there, taunting me. Chamomile replied defensively. I said I was sorry. Yeah, whatever, Hibiscus replied, not buying it. You owe me a new pack of smokes. Fair, Cam replied with a shrug. Okay, my turn, Noah said as he rubbed his hands together excitedly. He looked around the room, looking for his prey, when his brown eyes landed on me. Mar, truth or dare? I hummed as I pointed my finger on my chin. Spill a juicy truth or do a fun dare? I chose the latter. Dare. And make it a good one, I say, feeling adventurous. All right then, Noah said cheekily as he accepted my challenge. I dare you to open the closet. That's right, the closet. The room went silent. All of our significant others, except for Bit, since she was single, knew of the closet. Of course, they were always intrigued about the closet's content, but never knew better than to pry. My heart sank into my stomach. I didn't think I'd be able to do this dare. My whole life, I've been forbidden from opening the closet, not to mention how much effort would go into opening the thing. My sisters and I didn't even want to begin to think of the consequences of opening that door growing up. It was simply never an option. And yet, there I was, given an impossible dare. Hibiscus, Daisy, and Chamomile all stared at me intently. I felt a few beads of sweat slide down my face from the pressure as Noah stared at me, awaiting my answer. Fuck it, was all I said before getting off the couch and heading for the closet, which was located downstairs in our basement. I know, triple the creep factor, right? A dare was a dare, and I wasn't going to pussy out. My sisters and their boyfriends eagerly followed me, hyping me up to see if I'd actually do it. In no time, I was facing the ominous door. It felt like it towered over my 5-foot frame, but in reality, it was only like a foot taller than me. I took a step closer, wrapping my hands around the heavy piece of wood that was barred across the door. Little help here? I asked, struggling to lift the wood. Nuh-uh, no way. Your ass is grass and Mom and Dad find out you opened the closet, Fitz said as she watched me struggle. Cam stared at me amused. It won't ever be open if I could lift this damn piece of wood, I retorted back, frustrated. Rick finally stepped in to help. With our combined efforts, mainly Rick's, we got the first obstacle off the door. I then unraveled the chains that were crisscrossed around the door. All that was left were the 3 locks, which can only be locked from the inside. Of course, neither of us had the key. Our dad always had the thing in his possession. Quick, Bit, give me 2 of your bobby pins, I said, thinking quickly on my feet. My sister fumbled with her long hair, artificially dyed, blue hair. My sister fumbled with her long, artificially dyed blue hair that she had put up into a bun before trimming the hairpins. She then handed them to me. What exactly are you going to do with that, Mar? Cam asked. Isn't it obvious? I replied back as I bent the pins straight. She's going to lock the picks, duh, Daisy replied in a mocking tone. Cam just scoffed and rolled her eyes. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. What I meant was, what's Mar going to do? She can't pick a lock to save her life. I jammed the bobby pins into the first lock before poking one around while keeping the other steady. A second later, the first lock unlocked with a satisfying What was that? I asked coyly. I smirked at the astonished look on Cam's face. Where the hell did you learn to pick a lock? Magician never reveals her secrets, I said with a wink, before moving on to the second lock. In reality, Bit taught me one night when we were bored. She taught herself how to pick a lock, so she could sneak into the liquor cabinet our parents had. Not even a minute later, and all 3 locks had been disengaged. I had wiped my sweaty palms on my jeans before putting my hand on the handle and twisting the door open. It was nerve-wracking just imagining all the possibilities that could have laid behind that door. The first thing I noticed was the smell. It was warm and stale, but had the slightest hint of decay. I had to blink twice and rub my eyes to make sure I was seeing things right. Are you guys seeing this too? If you need a person's skeleton, then yes, Daisy said despondently. I turned to look behind me. Everyone stared in shock at the skeleton. It still had bits of dry, leathery skin clinging to it, but mostly the flesh had decayed and flaked off. The person must have been a girl, going by the pink floral dress it was wearing. That wasn't the eeriest part, though. The backside of the door had scratch marks all up and down it, which meant that the person most likely died in there trying to claw their way out. There were also these little symbols painted in white all over the walls and even the door, painted over the scratch marks. The symbols looked like little runes meant to keep something in, or something out. Jesus Christ, Fit yelled as she brought her hand to her mouth. Noah didn't say anything, and just booked it up the stairs. Noah, wait, Cam yelled after him. In a last-second motion, I grabbed her wrist. Whatever you do, make sure he doesn't call the police. Marmalade, as she hesitated as she looked between the basement stairs and the skeleton in the closet. Just make sure, okay? I frantically yelled. With that, Chamomile flew up the stairs after her boyfriend. I quickly grabbed the closet door and slammed it shut, sliding my back down against it. I lowered my head into my knees. What are we gonna do? Fit asked. There's got to be a reasonable explanation as to why that's in there, I concluded. There's a dead body that's been locked in that closet for God knows how long, Rick yelled. If your parents have been guarding that rotting corpse all these years, there's only one logical conclusion as to how that person got trapped there. We've got to call the police, Daisy shouted, agreeing with her boyfriend. Mom and Dad? I questioned hysterically. No way, Daisy, you know they'd never hurt a fly. Then how would you explain that? They've got a point, Mar, Bit chimed in. Bit, you're the oldest, Daisy exclaimed. What do you think we should do? I'm at my wits' end here. Me? Why are you asking me that? So what if I'm the oldest? I'm not the one that put that down there. As the three started fighting amongst each other in the chaos of the situation, I stood up and came to a decision. I opened the door, getting one last good look at the skeleton. I slid my finger along some of the scratch marks, accidentally chipping the paint from one of the symbols. Before re-engaging the locks, I then slid the chains back in place. And somehow found the strength to put the piece of wood back over the door. Mar, what are you doing? Bit asked me after taking notice of my actions. Nobody is calling the police. At least not until we get Mom and Dad's side of the story, I announced. We could figure out where to go from there, but until then, the skeleton stays put. Yeah, like that'll bode well, Daisy scoffed. Hey Mom, Dad, we went into the forbidden closet you told us to never enter and found skeletal remains. Care to explain? Bit took a step towards me. Maybe she's right. We should wait until we have heard Mom and Dad's side of the story. Suddenly, Cam came barreling down the stairs. Noah isn't going to call the police, but he left to go clear his head. We're going to meet up back at our place. Bit then informed Cam of the plan. I'm telling you, this isn't going to go the way you're expecting, Marmalade, Daisy said as she waved us all off. But whatever, I'm going home. Rick and Bit followed her upstairs, since they all lived together and drove here in the same vehicle. I better get out of here too, Cam said before making her way back up the stairs. And then it was just me, all alone in the basement, with the skeleton in the closet. I'll figure something out. An opportunity is bound to present itself, I thought to myself as I made my way upstairs too. I stared at the bottom of the menacing basement stairs before turning the lights off and closing the door. Luckily, I didn't have to wait long for said opportunity. In fact, my parents were the ones that called the family meeting. It was the morning after, about 11 a.m., when I was awoken by my phone buzzing. After rubbing the sleep out of my eyes, I checked the caller ID and found it was my father. After picking up, all he told me to do was go to their house for an emergency family meeting. Reluctantly, I agreed, remembering the previous night's events. Within 25 minutes of fighting off the dizziness and fatigue, just thinking about the night before, I was dressed and out the door. I was the last one to arrive. My mother had prepared brunch. The meal sat on the dining table as my parents, Hibiscus, Daisy, and Chamomile, sat in their respective seats. "Glad you could join us," my father said unexpectedly. I nodded my head as I sat next to Cam. "Thanks for brunch, Mom. It looks delicious." "You're welcome, dear," was all she said. "How was the casino?" Cam asked nervously. Instead of responding, my father prompted us girls to start eating. All three of us reluctantly did. Eventually, my parents started eating too. I was so sick from the nervousness, waiting for the other shoe to drop, that I barely touched my plate. Daisy looked way too hungover and pissy to be dealing with this shit right now. I could tell she just wanted to go back to bed. "You know," my father started after the tension in the room crescendoed into a fortissimo, "our family always hasn't been the brightest or the best, but we'd do anything for each other, right?" A murmur of yeses filled the room as we all stared at our plates. They knew something was up. Parents always know somehow. "Good. It's good to know that." He took a bite out of the biscuits my mother made. "Now, listen, girls. I'm about to tell you a story. I want each and every one of you to pay attention, alright?" We all nod our heads. My mother clears her throat and adjusts herself uncomfortably. The accident where my parents, brothers, and sister died, their grandparents, aunt, and uncles, was not an accident, my father confessed. The room went eerily silent as we all processed his words. Growing up, they told us his family passed away in a tragic car accident. My mother once admitted he felt guilty that he had been staying over at a friend's house when it happened, and that he should have been with them. We grew up in my father's family home, so we've seen our grandparents, aunt, and uncle's photos. So growing up, we knew who they were and what their fates were, but now he's telling us that was all a lie? My mother had been diagnosed with terminal breast cancer, and, like I said earlier, my father would have done anything for my mother, including selling his soul to a demon. He said it with such seriousness, but I had to try really hard to hold in my laugh. Selling your soul to a demon? People can't possibly think that's a real thing they do, right? "You can't be serious," I heard Fit whisper under her breath. "Extremely," my dad replied, glaring at the oldest. Again, my family wasn't the brightest. My parents somehow gathered the right information and ingredients to summon a demon, and when it showed itself, they made a deal. The demon agreed to cure my mother of her disease, and my father shook on it immediately, before even hearing the other part of the deal. He believed he sold his soul. Instantly, my mother was cured of her cancer. Then the demon revealed what he wanted. It was a soul, alright, but not my dad's. It wanted the soul of one of their children. The demon wanted my parents to kill one of my siblings, or I, in exchange for my mother's life. I brought my hands to my gaping mouth. My breath hitched in my throat. What a horrible thing! I felt a tear fall from my eye. There's no way any of what he was saying was real. This all had to be one sick joke on my parents' part. But my dad, he was being so stoic and serious, the complete opposite of the wise guy I know who was always cracking jokes. My mother buried her face in her palms as she silently sobbed. What they were saying, it couldn't be true, could it? My father took a second to collect himself. Upon learning what the demon wanted, my father and mother both refused. My mother begged the demon to give the cancer back to her, but once the demon has started a deal, they can't go back on it. Because my parents refused to murder one of their children, a curse was unleashed upon our bloodline. First, my father died from a sudden stroke. Then, my oldest brother, Tommy, got hit by a truck on his way home from school. A pained expression filled my father's face as he recollected the tragic events. When he closed his eyes, it seemed like he was back, reliving the moment. Yet he pressed on. Our mother broke down and told us the truth. But it wasn't until we saw the dark shadow, take Tommy's body away that we believed her. Not long after, we figured out that pattern, but to be sure, we had to use my older brother, Fenris, as a test subject. When he came down with a terrible flu, a few days later, my sister and I knew. The demon was killing us from oldest to youngest, but couldn't move on to the next victim until it had the body of the previous. My mind went a bit hazy as I processed everything my dad was telling us. I felt unbelievably queasy, and I got up when I felt vomit make its way up my throat. I hacked what little brunch I had eaten into the sink. My mother came to check on me and walked me back to my seat with a wet compress on my forehead. She handed me a water bottle before going back to her seat. My father shot me a sympathetic look before continuing with his story. While Fenris continued to decline, my sister, Rosie, and I found a spell book my father used to summon the demon. We found the protective runes in it and decided to create a warded chamber that would protect the body of its last victim. If the demon didn't have the body, the curse couldn't progress. On the night Rosie and I finally finished getting the wards ready, we slipped into Fenris's room and drug him down the stairs to the basement. I can still remember the feeling of his cold, sweaty palms in mine as I tugged his delirious body down the stairs. Unfortunately for us, he had grown too weak and strenuous. And the strenuous activity of dragging his limp body down the stairs was too much for his heart. He died of a heart attack at the bottom of the stairs. My father wiped a tear that had escaped from his eye. Another one fell, but he didn't bother to wipe it away. He was squeezing my mother's hand for comfort now. Rosie and I grieved for our brother and sobbed in each other's arms. The demon was quick to move on to the next victim. Rosie, being younger than Fen, but older than me, started suffering from an asthmatic attack, spurred on by our sobbing. Thinking quickly, I grabbed her free arm and made a run for the basement. Rosie was too busy scratching at her throat to notice. I shoved her into the closet we turned into a protective tomb. When she started scraping at the closet door, begging for air, I almost broke and let her die in my arms. I was young then, too young to care about my fate. The only thing I knew was that my family was dying. That thought is what kept me going. I realized that she was going to die, no matter what. But there was still a chance to save myself, save what was left of my family. Back then, it was just a simple lock on the closet that I turned with ease, but now, as you've seen it, I keep that closed closet heavily locked and hard to get into. Daisy broke out into a sob with Cam joining her. Hibiscus tried to comfort the both of them. I tried to keep myself from puking again. Obviously, I'm still here, so that means our plan worked. That just left my mother and I to go to guard the closet with our lives. That is, until she killed herself. She couldn't bear the loss of her husband and 3 oldest children, and was guilt-ridden that she had made it out alive. Since she was cured of her cancer, she found another way out. A bottle of bourbon and my dad's revolver. Now, it's just me, and it's been my job to keep that closet locked and protected for the past 43 years. How do you know all of this? Daisy asked, wiping a tear from her face. Because the demon showed me a vision. Once it learned I had outsmarted it, it taunted me with the truth. Out of the million racing thoughts in my brain, I asked the first question. How did you know we went into the closet in the first place? My father took another bite out of his biscuit and chased it down with some water before pulling out his key ring. He twirled it around his finger. I checked to make sure my sister is still in there 3 times a day. The answer chilled me to my bone. I could tell it shocked my sisters too. Listen, your mother and I aren't mad. He took the last big bite of his biscuit as my mother nodded in agreement. In fact, I understand that you all might be confused as to what you found, hence why I told you the story. He took another sip of his water. So, please, just tell me where you girls moved the body. I furrowed my brows in confusion. I left the forbidden closet just as I had found it last night. None of us, that I know of, moved the body. Hell, we wouldn't have wanted to touch the skeleton if we wanted to. Dad, what are you talking about? We didn't move the body. I quickly stood from my chair and marched towards my father. I ripped the key ring out of his hands and marched for the basement door. Fit and Daisy got up to follow me, as my father continued his little coughing fit. Fit helped me move the piece of wood off over the fortified door, and Daisy removed the chains as we set the wood down. I used the key to unlock the locks and pulled the door open. A loud thud came from above us. Quick, call 911, my mother screamed. I took a step back, fighting the urge to pass out. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The closet was empty, and the skeleton was gone. At first, I thought it was my vision, going hazy from shock. But I knew it was something in the corporeal world when Fit let out a small shriek. A dark, ominous shadow figure appeared out of nowhere, and I'm fairly certain that it had belonged to the demon that had cursed our bloodline.